Welcome to the Berks Homes Podcast, the business of building homes. I'm Katie. I'm here with my brother Ben, and today we are talking about why we love building homes. And we thought this would be a perfect time. Yesterday was July 4th. There's literally no one in the office today.
It might be 4 people.
On a Friday afternoon in the summer, day after July 4th. So we wanted to just kind of chill out and talk about fun stuff today.
Talk about the enjoyable aspects.
Yeah. Why do you love building homes?
I have a number of reasons. I think that on a high level, my favorite thing is when it all works according to plan. That's easy to say for any business, but I think that the value add of doing a great job in a community is the most satisfaction you can get in the business. When I say the value add, it's all the components, right? And so it really does start from the beginning when you get that exciting land lead, because there's something very tantalizing about getting a phone call on a potential project.
Yeah.
Where being an optimist, they all sound good, right?
Right.
You're like, oh, wow, this is so exciting.
I was just looking at our list of prospects today.
For sales?
Land.
Oh, yeah.
For land prospects. And I was like, oh, I remember that one.
Yeah.
What happened to that? I actually was going through that today, getting a little bit hyped about it. Like, oh, I can't wait to find out where we're at with some of these.
Yeah. And there's different levels to it because obviously you get inserted into the process as a home builder at different points depending on the piece of land, the developer, or even if it's just a seller that's looking to just sell their piece of land and they just know that it could be built on.
Right.
Regardless if you have influence in what goes on the piece of property,
that's
the best. Yeah.
Oh,
but when you have that ability to make the deal and then propose a certain product at a certain price, at a certain pace, and it matches what you thought, I mean, that is so great because if it matches and it does well, that means that you're serving a need.
Right. Yeah.
You know, when it sells well, it's like, okay, this community, this region, this area, this is what they need, and we were right.
Yeah.
And that generally translates to happy people, happy customers. So that's why, and you also make good money.
Yeah.
Because you can manipulate the demand yourself, not being subject to a market that maybe you were off on.
Yeah.
When it doesn't go as well, or when sales struggle, it's because the market is telling you something different than you planned.
So it sounds like a little bit of the gambling, betting, planning thing going on here. It is always a little exciting to go, okay, am I going to roll the dice correctly here?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a little more control than that. But
yeah, but it is sometimes, and we're not even talking about outside factors. That's just like assuming that all the things that you predicted will happen and there won't be recession or something,
Yeah.
But that's like the high level because it hits all of it. Because one of my favorite things is to go to a community and see a ton of activity.
That is really high on the list for me.
Right. I love to see new lawns being started. The houses are closing out, and a bunch of other homes being started and in various levels of activity. From my love for production, the construction side. I love the ability to have a trade in each home in different, aspects of the process where you just have all your trades at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And it's so efficient.
Well, what's really fun about that is sometimes it can be a little lonely in communities, depending on what that sales pace is, depending on how many opportunities there are, how many lots we have. But when you get one that just strikes right, it's like a party every day. You have your sales team, your production team, but then all of the trades. everyone is in there every day. It's just busy and has real high vibes at that point.
Yeah.
And even the customers get used to seeing the same faces too.
Mm-hmm.
And it deepens the relationship that you have with them.
Right.
It can be, not everybody loves to live in a construction zone.
Yeah.
But when it goes well, they're part of that excitement and activity. These are the people that got in when the price was right.
Well, yeah, that's the trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a salesperson, I would be highlighting that. If a community's going really well and there's a ton of activity, then price increases associated with it.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
so if you were the first one, you will deal with a lot of construction.
I was going to say, the sales consultant, when they sign on that dotted line, I want you to say to them every time you hear the framer come in a little earlier than you would like.
At 6:55 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember how much lower your payment is than everyone else's.
Yeah. There's trade-offs. So last one in generally pays the most and probably won't have the best lot either.
Well, unless they're pre-sale.
Yeah.
Sometimes we save the best for last if all things are going perfectly.
Right. Yeah. That's a sign of good planning.
Mm-hmm.
So high level, it's that whole community thing. I would say secondarily, if we're breaking it down into just aspects of it, I obviously enjoy the construction side. I love the game, the ability to look at different sets of data and try and make changes according to what you see, because we are a production home builder, so there's always a next at bat. There's an opportunity right around the corner to see how that change will happen.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? This morning, I was listening to Alex Hermosi's podcast, and he was talking about advertising or marketing or something, but I was thinking about it in application to home building, and what his philosophy was: more, better, new. So you have to get in more reps.
Yeah.
You have to get as many reps in as possible. So if whatever you're doing, you need to do more of in order to know how to get better.
Yeah.
So you just get in as many reps as you can, and as soon as you feel like you've gotten that under your belt, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then you do it better.
Right.
How do I get better at it? So exactly what you're saying is, I'm analyzing the numbers I have in front of me. We've gotten enough reps in.
Yeah.
How do we make this home building process better?
Right.
And then once you've kind of gotten it to the point that it's perfected the best that you can, then you can do something new.
Right.
Then you test
the market. Over.
Yeah.
A lot of testing. And our business, our industry, we've talked about this a lot, is so prone to change.
Yeah, this is
enhancements,
what we talked about last week.
And that adaptability. We talked about that. But if you don't embrace that mindset, it will become overwhelming.
Yeah. So when you're looking at things and you're looking at it like, okay, how do I make this better? What things are you taking into consideration? Not just what works, but what's not?
Yeah. I never really like the idea of trying to depart from something that's not working in such a way that it's like overly reactive.
Yeah, not too soon.
Yeah, or let's just go do the exact opposite.
Right, the pendulum swing, too far the other way.
Because, and different personalities have differing opinions on this. Me, I'm always in the middle on almost everything. I don't like extremes.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's particularly effective to make really quick decisions on things. I can see the gray in anything. Making sweeping changes that are just because something didn't work doesn't mean that it wouldn't work with a little bit of change or a little practice, like you said. I'd rather come to the conclusion through testing something a little bit differently.
What are you thinking of when you're talking about things like that? Like, what would you be analyzing as part of the love of home building? What are you looking at that you can say, okay, this is how we make it better, or this is, I don't want to be too reactive?
I would say just the way you incentivize the people side of it. Like, you don't want to assume that people are motivated by this or not.
Okay.
It might be the mix of it, how you incentivize the production team to do a better job on X, Y, or Z. Maybe if you provided them with a financial incentive, that might work. Or maybe if you just did a way better job of explaining why it's critical to the team around them and why they rely on it and work really hard at communicating the why, that might be even better.
So you're even combining incentivize and motivation in that context.
Incentivize, not necessarily financial, just incentivize, like give them the motivation that works. And maybe it's a little bit of both, but I don't like the idea of always using money as a tool. I'm not just talking about incentivizing people, but using money as a tool to fix things.
Yeah, because there's value.
Yeah.
Not just finance.
Yeah. So going back, I'm kind of like a closet salesperson as well. Like I don't love sales like you do maybe, but I kind of like it.
I think anyone has to have at least a secret love of sales to be motivated or driven. You have to know it.
You do. And I like the game of sales more than anything.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
The manipulation of how things work, the art of new home sales, which we were just talking about, like it's the big picture of it's not a clear science. The practical side of me, because I'm so practical, is I want to be able to come up with formulas, but in my gut, I know that doesn't work for everything.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, you come up with the formula until it breaks.
Yeah.
And then the assumption is that the formula will not work in all circumstances. But when it doesn't work, then you know where you get to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have everything set up according to the best practice.
Yeah.
I'm within my range of all parameters, but it's not working. Well, that's the first indicator of where you have to look.
Yeah.
So all of your gross profit is set properly. You're staffed the way you need to. You even have an incentive in place. You've got the right inventory, all this stuff, and something's not selling.
Yeah.
Then you have to look back at, okay, what is competing with this?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of can check off all of the obstacles.
You take away you have the control, piece, the control subject, and then you play around with the variables and see what works.
Yeah.
When you were talking about that idea of testing and, more, better, I was thinking about my current quest to become a good pickleball player.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because I came into this summer having played a handful of times and, my wife is a big pickleball player and I was like, that's a dumb sport.
Until you
and
played.
Then I was playing a little bit and I kind of loved it. And it was that idea. The pickleball's a very fascinating game because if you're, somewhat athletic and, I've played tennis in the past. If you have decent hand-eye coordination, you can kind of be okay right away. And then, but you immediately hit a wall.
Right.
Because, these 65-year-old ladies will humble you and they don't move.
Right.
And you're just like, how is this? I'm the youngest person out of 28 people here, and I am not in the top 25% at all. How is this possible? Well, you just got to strategize. You got to figure out why. And then it's literally they just play all the time. And I don't have that kind of time. I'm playing like once a week.
Yeah.
But it's such a challenge now in my head. Like I'm obsessed with my goal is to be not the worst person out of 4. That is it. Every game I play, I just want to be like
at least second
worst. And, I'm getting there, but I'm definitely not there. And it's kind of like the same in business. That's why I do love this business, because it is so broad and vast. We talked about sales. We talked about production. We didn't talk about marketing at all. We didn't talk about drafting or purchasing or, the massive effort that it takes to keep everything looking presentable.
Yeah.
Not just in the communities, but at the office and the selection galleries. And then there's the biggest subject that we're constantly dealing with now, which is making sure we have all the right people in the right place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And the personalities and then leadership.
And training.
Career
pathing.
I mean, that is currently my biggest use of time is trying to be a better leader.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not doing a lot of home building at all. I haven't been to a community in a month probably, which that's not my job, but you can get a little detached from what we do because I'm trying to be a better leader and lead everybody towards our company goals. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of obsessed with that piece of it right now.
Well, we have to be right now.
Yeah.
There's no question. But previous 20 years have been put in
the tactics
practice so that we could be at this point,
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's like the best part is that longer I go, the more I realize that I don't know anything.
Yeah. Every day.
Yeah.
You're just like, how is this possible?
Yeah, I shouldn't say anything, but I know a lot less than I do know when it comes to the entire business and being an expert in every single piece of it. And for me, it was more of a slow burn. Like I was not passionate about building homes my entire life. Like you had a whole lifetime of just being interested. Now, I loved being involved in any way, but I never made the connection of how I would be doing this every day.
Sure. Yeah.
So it kind of changes the way you think about it once you make that choice.
Yeah.
To be all in and invested. And the more time I've put into learning things and being involved, the more I realize there's way more to learn than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And you just touched upon each, a number of those pieces, but how each area applies to our business is even different than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about this before with like things that you didn't learn in school, that there's just things like leadership that comes up every single day. It's like, could have I possibly read that in a book? Maybe I did in some leadership book, but I never understood that this is how it would apply.
Yeah. Well, you don't always make the connection that it's whatever you're learning or reading or watching a video on leadership, you don't realize how impactful that is.
Until you need it.
Yeah, to being successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to learn a lot about, it's kind of like it's a somber feeling to think that the most important aspect of me being a leader right now is not home building.
Does it feel a little sad?
It's a little sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about this today, though.
Yeah. It's a little sad because you want to do all the things, but as you grow and get to different positions and slowly work your way to the top, it's a lot less about that.
Yeah. Well, I can pinpoint every time I've kind of had to relinquish my involvement with different things that I love doing. Mm-hmm. Selection gallery.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything to do with that anymore, and I absolutely love it.
Right.
And I guess I have to translate that now into getting the people who are in it hyped about it still. That's one way we can apply our love for each aspect of it. I don't know. We'll never pull completely away from any piece that we're really interested in. I'll still always be involved at some level, but just not to the point where I'm working with customers.
Mm-hmm.
That part has probably been the hardest for me because I've had to force myself to get good with information, numbers, metrics, things like that, because it was so easy to rely on my gut when I was working with customers.
Yeah.
It's so easy to know what people want when you're with them every day, helping them make decisions.
Right.
You just have a really good pulse on the market in
Right.
general, just from a selection gallery appointment.
Now, how do you get all your selection gallery consultants to
Tell me what their vibe is.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big project,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, well, we were talking about that earlier this week. What's the feedback loop
Mm-hmm.
for what people want that we don't have right now? How do we capture that? Because that is gold.
Yeah.
Is such good information. If 10 people come in and 8 of them ask for a certain color or a product,
And we don't have it.
and we don't have it,
let's go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the business side. Doing good business is falling out of love with you and what you think is right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, well, let's just, whatever the market wants.
Yeah.
That's what we need to sell. I mean, it doesn't matter what we think, or if we think this thing looks really good and everybody's like, that's ugly, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, like, that was so key for me with decorating model homes.
Yeah.
I don't decorate them according to my style.
Right.
It's what people feel comfortable in and are aspiring to.
Right.
Right. Whatever's happening.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have them align, but
yeah.
Typically somebody's personal style doesn't move as quickly as the market does.
Yeah.
Trends and things like that.
Exactly.
There's always that time when women's bell-bottom jeans are in, and you're like, really? Again?
But that's why that part was my favorite. It's just staying on top of product information, and I love the new piece, and the what's next and all of that. And to me, the selection gallery was the best place to do that.
Well, that is one of my other favorite things. Is just, there's always something new.
Yeah.
It's never ho-hum, ever. Things change rapidly, even in a industry that is considered to be like a dinosaur, technology-wise and everything. But in terms of the product and buyers' needs and budgets and demographics, it's constantly moving.
That's why I'm saying I feel like I know less and less, because how quickly things like that change. You got to keep up on so many things. I like to be challenged like that, though. That's what is so exciting to me, is I'm never going to be bored.
Never going to be bored.
Always the next thing to get on top of again. And you can't assume you have anything figured out.
Right.
Just because you figured it out for that thing doesn't mean it's going to hold true the next time.
Yeah. And, selfishly too, I'm sure you agree with like the love of home building. I mean, is there anything better than like building a house or creating a product that somebody lives in?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, how many times do people say it's one of the basic needs of humanity is to have shelter? That's so cliche, but it is so true. Right.
I thought Brian Rodriguez put it really well at our company meeting. Maybe it was last year, where he went on this long talk about the nobility of building homes. You're like, I guess it is noble, but
especially with, and I believe this wholeheartedly, especially with us trying to make it affordable.
Yeah, well, that's where we really connect well with that idea of business is about making money, right? I mean, in its basic form, making money to sustain itself over time, right? So if that's the end goal, we feel like we don't have to focus on that.
Right.
Because if we just give people what they want at a price that they can afford and not try and drag them over the finish line.
Yeah.
So our cancellation rate is really low.
I think it's the highest it's been over this past year, like 6%.
Yeah, which is
at different times, but it's like
historically most home builders are like 12% or something.
Yeah,
10 to 12.
10.
That's kind of like our vibe.
Yeah.
Which is, we're not really looking to get people to sign on the dotted line no matter what. Like, we want it to make sense for them.
Yeah.
And like, our goal is to make sure that, and it doesn't work out always, right? Some people have a budget and it just doesn't happen. But we want to make it so the most people can afford it. And we make money, of course, because that is the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
But we feel like you can do that and still get to that end goal.
Yeah.
Where the most people are happy all around.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds kind of like aspirational, but it's worked
I was going to say,
for 50 years.
We mean it 100%.
100%.
I think that's kind of the hard part with, well, both, I was going to say marketing, but Selection Gallery, we're not fancy. Sometimes that's a little difficult to not have the latest and best and most expensive and custom. That's not who we are. So I've let that go a long time ago.
Right.
But what's really hard is once I accepted that and kind of really dove into the part where it's like, but what we do is allow way more people the opportunity to get in one of our homes.
Right.
Love that.
Right.
But then when we advertise and people make comments like, the most nice box for $1 billion and this is charging way too much, I get so upset about it, and I've got to tone myself down.
Yeah, don't lump us in with all those other guys.
Right,
right.
I mean, we're doing our best.
Yeah. Well, it's always the chance you take when you serve a lot of people. Everybody's going to have an opinion.
I am honestly totally fine with the look, most of the comments, but the price one is the one that gets me every time, because I'm like, no, really, we're not too expensive.
Yeah,
I
go down the
promise.
street. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we are always
competitive in that
always
aspect.
on the more affordable side than the guy down whoever's selling the same exact square footage down the street. I can guarantee you we are not more.
Yes.
In almost every scenario.
Okay, now I feel better. I got that off my chest publicly.
Yeah. So I talked a lot about what some of the things that I really enjoy in this industry. What's your number one?
In the industry.
Home building.
Yeah, I really think that it's the house itself, the finished product, and seeing what people selected, what combination, what works for their family,
right?
Why they picked what for their lifestyle. What is it? Why did they make that choice? I love
there's
seeing it.
Tens of thousands of combinations. I used to enjoy doing that with a really busy community, is going through and just seeing, you may have 4 or 5 houses that are towards the end, and you get to see all the stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And you go, oh, I've never seen that combination of things before, and I've never seen anybody do this. I've never seen anybody do that. And like you said, this one has a finished basement. This one has a finished basement with a morning room and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you can start picturing like the lifestyle that somebody has.
Yeah.
And then you see, you're walking through and you're like, wow, the last 5 of these had this same thing.
Yes, that's what I really love.
And you're like, I'll write that down.
Exactly.
Maybe the price is too low.
Well, that's probably the first place to go with it.
Yeah.
But along with that, it would probably be understanding who the happy people are that build with us.
Sure.
And why.
Right.
I really want to know what it is about what we do that gets it right. And so we have to look at what goes wrong, and we have to analyze failure and things just for getting better purposes. But my philosophy in life is to amplify the good.
I was going to say, it goes back to what we kind of started out with, the testing and everything. And you asked me how I look at, making changes and not doing the extreme. We're aligned on that.
Yeah.
Pointing towards the good. And instead of saying we're really dropping the ball on this item 5 times out of 5, it's like, what are we doing 10 times out of 10, and how can we replicate that on this thing? If
you nail the good, sometimes those things that aren't working go away.
Right. And
it's the focus on what's working that fixes it.
And defining success is way more effective in my mind. let's just say you have somebody that reports to you and you have a one-on-one with them.
Mm-hmm.
I've always found it's way easier to specifically define what success looks like,
Yeah.
the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
and point them towards that constantly instead of saying, hey, you need to work on this, this, and this.
It's so easy to say what to do. It's one thing.
Yes.
What not to do could be 5 million things.
Yeah. And then what happens?
And then there's totally confusion.
Yeah. Just, it's, let me go back to the pickleball example. Yeah. I finally took a lesson last week, and it was way harder to play the next time because I was thinking.
Were you in your head?
Yes. I was thinking about all the things I shouldn't do. And
you
know what was funny? And the club pro who did the lesson for me was there when I was playing the next time, and he made a comment to me. He said, stop thinking about what you shouldn't do, just remember the things that I said you should do.
That tied in perfectly.
Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah it's all it's kind of like a life lesson, right? It's just like negative feedback is only so effective,
unless you don't have the solution.
Right. Yeah. Pointing towards something instead of saying go away from that is so much easier.
If you go away from something instead of
you go somewhere else,
you're just going the wrong way, a different direction.
And usually I can think back in my life when I was trying to be a good leader and coach and, trying to be optimistic about something that somebody need to get better at. And when it failed was because I was just like, don't do that. And then I remember coming back and be like, well, don't do it that way either. And it's like, why don't you just say, this is the behavior or result that we really want to land on. And we've talked about that too. In terms of operations, where it's like, this is the end result. How you get there is, we have recommendations, but the result is more important. Yeah.
And that's giving the solution. That's giving the one thing. We 100% care about the outcome or the result. How you get there, even if it might not be the most efficient or how I would do it, I'm going to let it go because it doesn't matter as much as getting to the destination.
Yeah. So one other thing I think that I don't know what it's like to work at another builder. Full disclosure.
Yeah, me neither, obviously.
However, I do feel like I would be remiss not to mention the specific people that we work with as part of this. It all gets jammed into one. Why do you love home building? Well, I think part of it is I just love a lot of the people here.
Well, this home building.
Yeah.
This company.
Because it does take a specific type of person to want to come to work every day and deal with what could be considered problems all the time, because it's the industry. It's what it is. When you go get a building permit, from then until when you get the certificate of occupancy, all you do is deal with variables.
Yeah.
The soil type.
When you say variables, those things could be considered problems if you're not thinking about it with the right lens or even equipped to deal with the variable. Right.
And things go well enough of the time to get you addicted. So if you have this community over here, like ledge rock, like the whole community's on rock, and it's just, you dig every house and the excavator's just out there hours a day, peck. That's discouraging. But then you go over to this community and you just dig into this beautiful soil and there's no weather delays and the subs are all on schedule. It's like, well, we can make that happen over and over.
Well, it's like the symphony then. You're just like this the orchestra's playing beautifully.
Right.
And,
But if you're the type of person that wants to wake up every day and go to work and
do
know
the same
exactly
thing?
how it's going to happen. Wrong business.
Forget it.
So there is that level of like stress capacity, I think, that's built into this business.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bare minimum level of, stress that you can handle is just higher.
Or it could be that you're motivated by a little bit of a adrenaline shot.
Little chaos every once in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what it would look like. This is just pure honesty. I have no idea what it would look like to just be like status quo, like to go in every day. And I'm thinking, I know people in the auto industry, and it's just like they just sell the same amount of cars every month, and they just wait around and the new model year is coming out in this month, and this is just what we do, and whatever. They're backed by some massive automaker, and it's just like they're like a brand ambassador, and it's just kind of easy and predictable. There's not a lot of work to do.
It's funny you say that. It's probably really hard. It just sounds like the most boring thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with any rock
Right.
or, high water table or something. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. This is cake.
Or the fact that...
No disrespect to those auto dealers, but...
Yeah, it could be anything predictable. I like the challenge.
Yeah.
And even the challenge of helping a customer be really confident in their choice to spend all of their money. Because we're talking about the chaos and the adrenaline. This is the most emotional time in most people's lives, and when they're going through the home building journey or home purchasing.
Yeah.
Because this is their entire, this is the most they'll ever spend at once.
I really do try to work hard at not being desensitized to that.
Oh, I feel like I have to remind myself every day.
Like you have to think about it. You can't just wake up 2 years later and, wonder why somebody
would be upset
at, this, what you think is a little thing, but you just heard it 50 times already.
Yeah. And it's never the thing.
It's never the thing.
It's never.
It's just a stressful time.
Yeah. It's never because they didn't remember they picked that front door color.
Right. Yeah.
It's because they go,
I got a moving truck lined up.
I picked this door color and I hate it. What if I hate this house and I spent all of my money on it?
All of my money.
It's an instant snowball effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're like, we only got, 48 sales. Why didn't we get 49? How come we didn't get one other family to commit their entire life's resources this month?
Right.
Just this month.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It you got to remember how important. When we bought our homes, it was a big deal.
Yes.
It was a big deal.
Yes.
And we don't do it every month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to stay connected to that, but I try because it's just like we're getting 520 some families to do that this year. This year.
Just this year. Mm-hmm.
And it all works.
See, that's why we love it.
Yeah. So human aspect, love that.
Mm-hmm.
Which probably I think there's a lot of energy around that in the company, because it's like we're all in this stressful business together.
Yeah, we're all trauma bonded.
Yes. So when it's easier to find the little things that make us happy, like our new platform, 15.5.
Yes.
It's like amazing every day. It has this high five feature. I think we talked about it the last podcast. It's just so cool because people get hyped about the little things because, again, those variables can pop up where something can go sideways.
But then there's 170 people ready to help out.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And they're like hyped for each other when somebody,
solves it.
Hey, there was a problem with this lender and the closing wasn't going to happen, but then it did because of this person.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes.
Right.
And then you do it again tomorrow. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
human aspect, customer and employee.
Yes.
Anyone that's kind of in the chaos together.
Right. And you tend to see the outside impact more from sales and marketing, dealing with the customers. I definitely deal a lot more with the internal.
Yeah.
The internal customers are people.
Yeah.
And so we get that good balance of both. So speaking of high fives, do you have a shout out?
I
Do you wanna do
yes.
that now?
Yes. Okay, let's tie this into the last thing that we were talking about. And my shout out this week is for Jason Kwan.
Sales lead in
Yes.
South Central.
Just was emailing him back and forth this week a little bit, and he just has the best attitude. And if you want to talk about someone who has the right perspective in mind, thinking about the customer and how they're feeling going through this journey and how to treat them. I mean, 10 out of 10 every time. The communication, the expectation setting, but then also when you were saying, I can't believe we get that many people to commit to this every month. It's like that is just something that he has this magic ability to do, you know?
Right. He's always in the moment with each individual buyer and what's going on with their situation.
And connecting with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When you do that as a salesperson, you're able to move mountains.
Yeah.
Because people know when you're genuine.
That is, I think, the best way to say it. He is so genuine.
Yeah.
With not just customers, but also his coworkers.
Right.
And it is just a breath of fresh air every time you have a conversation with him.
Jason's a vibe.
He is. He's a vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of those guys where, when you think of a salesperson, I'm just saying globally, not just new home sales, salesperson, what comes into your mind?
Well, you just do want to take a step back for a minute. You think, oh,
right,
I'm going to get sold.
Well, you think, what do people use? New used car salesman, right? That's always like this negative connotation, but then that's just kind of a derivative of the overall feeling that the word salesperson gives, right? And Jason and that word, they don't match.
Complete opposites, yeah.
But then when you know Jason and his process and how thorough he is as well, being thorough is actually giving a lot of empathy because if you're thorough, you want to know everything.
Yeah.
So you can do the best job for that customer. And when you're doing the best job for that customer, typically you're doing the best job for the business.
Yes.
So it kind of goes hand in hand with that empathy. But my point is with Jason, it's like I would buy something from that guy.
Yeah.
Because of his level of empathy and understanding for the whole process. And if you're empathetic, you want to provide the most information too. Yeah. Which is a circular reference. Helps the company because you're setting the right expectations.
That's the key.
But it helps the customer because you're setting the right expectations.
Yeah.
So that was a long-winded shout out, but
no, that's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about you? You have a challenge?
I really like Jason too.
I don't ever want to cut you off from giving somebody.
Yeah. He's a shining example of excellent salesperson and customer-facing employee. And I think we all could learn from that empathetic approach. Yeah. When dealing with anybody.
With anyone.
Right.
Yep.
So my challenge is I was just thinking about this as it relates to keeping that energy high constantly throughout the year. And everybody's different. Everybody knows if you have family traditions and vacations, everybody's kind of got their thing. Oh, I always take a week here, always take a couple days here. And I don't. I like to run hot until I can't, right? And then typically something just works out where I have some time off and then I just get re-energized, right? But I thought that it would be good for everybody to take that kind of clarity break in terms of where they're at. And if their tank's not full, just take a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where are you on the burnout
It's
scale?
Never a good time.
Yeah.
And I don't think my wife listens to this podcast, but, I'm going to take a day soon, just a day, which I never do. I don't take a day off unless I'm going somewhere, but I think I'm just going to take a day.
That's a great idea.
And spend some time with my wife doing whatever.
Do this before next Wednesday, and then it can be a surprise no matter what.
Next Wednesday,
When this
not
comes
this
out.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is her birthday on Tuesday. So I have my Tuesday planned until lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to our Harrisburg office and doing all my skip level meetings with the managers there.
Yeah.
I should be out of there by 1, and I'm going to bolt home.
There you go.
That's not a day.
Nope.
Because I'm getting there at like 6:30, but I want to do another day.
Yeah,
that's her birthday, so I'm
yeah.
going to surprise her with, coming home early. But
Yeah.
I just thought that's a good exercise. Like
for everyone to just
in
do a
our
check.
business, everybody has a lot of time off. I mean, which is awesome. That's how we want it. So take it when you need it.
Yeah.
If you plan well, you'll execute well. So obviously you don't want to just say, oh, I'm taking tomorrow off and I have 12 meetings and sorry, I'm just off. But, look at the next week, figure it out, plan it out. And then if you do it well, you'll reap the rewards.
What I'm always find is that it's great to take a day close to when you took a vacation.
Yeah.
Because
you need the
to
vacation
recover.
from the vacation.
Yes.
Right.
So
you come back, hit it hard, and then take a day.
the next week.
Yeah.
Something like that, because all of that fun can be exhausting also.
Yeah.
So don't assume that because you were on vacation that you got refreshed either.
Yeah.
It just depends on who you are and how you operate.
So, next time you'll have to see how it went and if I scheduled a day.
Okay.
So July is kind of unique for us because it's Samantha's birthday on the 9th and then our anniversary is on the 19th.
Yeah.
So I have some opportunities to do that.
Okay.
So,
I will ask the next time.
yes. And we will not be missing any podcasts, I don't think.
No, we won't.
Well, maybe on the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's your fault.
Yeah.
then.
So,
If you take some time with,
yeah.
we'll do it on Saturday.
Okay. All right. Well, that was good.
Yeah. I'd like to also ask.
Yeah.
It would be so great to hear why everyone else loves to build homes.
Oh, yeah.
So if you lasted to the end and you're
Yes.
still here and you are passionate about any part of the business, just send us an email.
Yeah. And we could maybe share it on social.
Oh, that
or
would be so
something,
fun.
in the comments or something.
Yeah.
With our coworkers. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, tell me. That would be so
Because
exciting.
we got a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great to have 170 comments
Oh.
or something,
Yes.
Yeah. So, good idea.
Thank
like
you.
that.
All right, guys.
All right.
Catch you next week.
See ya.
Thank you.